Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
Simmo's winning run finally comes to an end, but the Blues have put themselves in a great position for the final run-in, starting this weekend at Barrow. We look back on the win over Northampton and defeat to Newport County, while previewing the big trip down the coast to face the Bluebirds. All good things have to come to an end, don't they, Dan? And they did in midweek against Newport. No disgrace in that result, though, I don't think, because they look a very good side, don't they, Newport? I think it's fair to say.
I was more impressed with Newport than I was Northampton.
Yeah, I think Rochdale probably the team I've seen play the best football in this recent run, but actually Newport look the best side. I think they look a really well-oiled unit, which, considering the fact that their top scorer Dominic Telford didn't actually look in form, he looked a bit off the pace. A pretty good result for them, I think it's fair to say. So disappointing for us, but we were never going to win every single game till the end of the season. So
no, and like we said at the end of the last episode, you would have grabbed 4 points. You would probably even have taken 2, so 3 out the 2.
Yeah, if we're going to get 3 out of the 2, I'm glad we got the 3 against Northampton as well in front of the big crowd. That's the one I really wanted to get the win in, and that kept that 4-game run rather than a 3-game and then lose and start again. So yeah, there you go. We'll cover those 2 games shortly. Should we go straight into the news section? There's not really much news, is there?
Not much news, is there? No.
There's no real news. What we're going to do is the loan updates this week, and again, quite thin on the growth with that.
I was going to say, it's not too much, is it? No.
I mean, they've been dropping like flies over the last few weeks, haven't they? All the lads who've been out on loan. We'll start up with the one that's actually doing something. Taylor Charters. Another full 90 minutes for Taylor and another 3 points for the Heed. No goals this week in the 4-2 win over Gloucester. I mean, Gloucester City in National League North is just ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, it's similar to we were on about Brackley Town, weren't we, the other week?
Yeah, just astonishing, isn't it? But there you go. But yeah, he's continuing to play a big part for the club, and they remain top of the table in National League North, 3 points ahead of Brackley Town, having played a game more than them. Conor Malley played from the start in this game as well. Interestingly, Chedwin Scott was actually on the bench. So
they do seem to rotate a little bit, Gator. I think that's been one of the keys for them.
That lad Langstaff scored again, didn't he? I think he's their top
scorer. Scores a lot,
that
lad. Yeah.
I mean, do I say it? He's one we should really maybe have a look at in the summer, maybe, if we're looking for players who are in non-league doing well. Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst suggestion, I don't think. But yeah, great to see Taylor still doing well. So that's 11 appearances now and 2 goals in his loan spell. It's one of those ones you do look at, though, with the as we'll touch on in a bit, the Devitt injury. If he's out a bit longer, do you potentially bring Taylor back or not? That's the question, isn't it? Although
we haven't got really a ready replacement for Devitt, have we?
No, I don't think Taylor is the same sort of player as him, but he's maybe a little bit more forward thinking than Devine, for example, or Whelan.
Yeah.
I don't know. But there you go. Anyway, up the other 2, Justin Abrahams, back to the bench for him this weekend. Last weekend, sorry, I should say. Just the 5 minutes on the pitch as well, but it was another win for the Mariners. They beat Yeovil 2-0 and they move into the final playoff place in the National League. So, yeah, potentially could get himself a promotion this season, Justin, couldn't he? He's playing a part, isn't he, there? I think it's fair to say. Probably more than he would be for us right now with the signings we've made. So, good luck to the lad, and hopefully they keep getting results and getting the playoffs at the end of the season. Finally, Manny Mampala, yet another defeat for the Terrors at the weekend. They lost 3-2 at home to Wealdstone. It looks like Weymouth are probably going down. They're pretty much dead and buried now, aren't they, with the rest of the bottom 3. Not a good day for Manny, though, either, because he didn't even come off the bench again. So that's 5 appearances, 1 as a sub. No goals since he's gone there. I mean, he's not going to be staying with us next season. We're pretty certain of that, aren't we? But
yeah,
I think he might struggle to get himself in the National League side at this rate, to be honest. Although when you go to a struggling side, it can be difficult to make an impact, I suppose, can't it? So So there you go. So not really much else to report in terms of loanies, is there? Dan, I think that's it.
No, all quiet.
Unless you want to briefly touch on the Lucas Jensen update.
He played for the under-23s at Burnley again. Still officially on loan to us. Although I would be very surprised if we ever see him back at Brunton Park. He doesn't train here. It's just, I literally wondered if we've maybe he's gone back, but we've kept it just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
possibly that might be it. But there you go. Right, well, let's get straight to the match reviews then, Dan. So yeah, United 2-1 win over Northampton Town, and then a 2-1 defeat at home to Newport County. Yeah, it's kind of like, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's you feel a real euphoria about that result against Northampton, and you're a little bit of a downer for the Newport game straight afterwards, aren't we? It feels like a bit of a sort of come down. But there's plenty of positives to take from both games, isn't there? Because I think if you look at that Newport game, if you go back to 2 months, 6 weeks under Millen, we'd have lost that game by 4 or 5 probably.
Yeah, it'd have been 3 or 4-0 probably. Yeah.
Yeah, where they would have comfortably beat us, but we didn't. We showed a good resolve in that game. We worked hard and we could have nicked it at the end. We had a few chances. I wouldn't say we were proper banging on the door, but we certainly gave them something to think about, and you could certainly see they were fairly relieved to hear the final whistle, weren't they, at the end, the Newport players? I mean, you were at the game. I only watched it on the old iFollow, but yeah, it was interesting one, that one. Should we talk about the goals in the Northampton game first, Dan?
Yeah.
What about Toby? Instant impact, wasn't it?
Just a bit.
Just incredible, wasn't it? I mean, the impact he had after coming on was. He just caused a nuisance, didn't he? Really, that was the big thing. So I mean, it's one of those games, wasn't it? The first half was cagey-ish. I think we probably shaded it on chances, didn't we? I think they played some okay stuff, Northampton, but you can see they're a side that are heavily reliant on set pieces, can't you?
They had chances, but there weren't many on target, were there? There was. I mean, I think they matched us pretty much in shots, maybe even a couple more, but in terms of actually getting them on target, there were very few, weren't there?
Well, yeah, the stats-wise, they've actually had a few more shots than us, but only 2 of them were on target. I mean, the goal, and I genuinely can't remember the other one. I don't really remember Howard having many saves to make at all.
No,
that was the thing that stood out with. Their keeper had a few. I mean, Dickinson had a long-range shot, didn't he? And we had a couple for Dennis in the first half as well. But the goal finally came on the 74th minute. Literally seconds after coming on, Toby Silva got the opening goal. I mean, it's very sort of route one, wasn't it, this goal, in the way it happened?
Yeah.
It was big, long goal kick forward from Mark Howard. And I say Brendan Dickinson did brilliantly for this goal.
Yeah, it was, he kept the ball well and, used a bit of strength, and then his assist was perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he's kind of like, he flicked on the goal kick sort of up, battled with his defender, held him off, sort of flicked it over his own head almost, didn't he, to bring it down, and then just played the ball perfectly into the path of Silva. Didn't even have to take a touch, did he? Just let it come across him, and then his first touch was to fire
it was a lovely finish.
Just inside the area, fired it into the bottom corner, past the keeper, and that's his 3rd goal in 7 games, was it, I think, since signing? Considering, I mean, some people make ridiculous comments when he first started playing, saying he was like one of the worst players I've ever seen for us. I mean, absolute nonsense, wasn't it, really? He was coming into a side that was struggling. It was always going to be tough.
Yeah.
And you can see...
There was a strange comment I read from him, something about his first league goal against Rochdale, and I'm thinking, did you bang your head that much at Colchester you forgot you scored?
I think maybe he was meaning that goal against Colchester and he just forgot, but there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great to see him hit the back of the net, and the roar when he went in as well. I've not heard that at Brunton Park for so long, have we? And it's just really, really fantastic to hear that. Bit frustratingly though, only held on to that lead for 5 minutes, didn't we? And
yeah,
I think the big difference for Northampton's second half was when they brought Baz Labala on. Because the lad they had up front to start with, wasn't overly impressed with him, if I'm honest, the big fella. Some nice touches that, but he never looked a goal for it. They put Sam Hoskins down the middle, He didn't score the goal, Hoskins, but they put him down the middle and he had a bit more of an impact. And then Basil Barlow, you probably remember for Crawley, don't we? Really impressive a couple of years ago. Went to Blackpool, not really had the same impact there, but is he on loan at Northampton, I think, at the moment, for the rest of the season? And he looked lively when he came in. As soon as he came on, I thought, oh, God.
He's a good player at this level, isn't he?
Too good for this level, probably. Maybe not quite championship level yet.
I wonder if he's one of those who's probably best at home in League One, because he's too good for League Two. Don't think he's quite championship level yet. Yeah.
But he was lively. He showed a nice bit of trickery on the right, and then managed to get across into the box. And Paul Lewis, I mean, he didn't really give Howard much of a chance. What's his 4th goal this season against us after the hat trick in the game down at Sixfields? So but one thing you noticed when this went in was that none of the players' heads dropped, did they? And the crowd didn't suddenly get really agitated. They really got behind the team, and I think that made a massive difference. And well, let's talk about the winner, Dan. Where do you even start with this? Two absolute brain farts from the Northampton defence. What they were doing, I don't know. I mean, so basically, initially comes again from a long kick forward from Howard, didn't it? Silva wins a flick on. He sort of flicks it very high and out to the wing. There was no one up with him. So he decided, well, I'm just going to have to chase my own flick on here, aren't I? And I don't think the defender was expecting him to get across so quickly. And he got across, and there was a bit of a sort of tussle, wasn't there? But it wasn't like a foul or anything like that, was it? It was just, Silva got in front of him, showed his strength. Silva fell to the floor. I don't think there was a foul at any point, really, when you look back at it. And then the Northampton player sort of jumps over Silva and grabs the ball on the ground, thinking he's going to get a free kick. And quite rightly, the linesman says, well, no, it's a handball. What are you doing?
I watched the replay on the different angles from like the pitch side blues stuff and that, and I still can't work out why he handled it.
Yeah, because there's no obvious, he's tugging him back or...
There's nobody near him, and,
The thing is, he does it, and if you actually look at it, if he'd waited a second or two more, Silva was going to get up and would probably have ended up bundling him over and conceding a free kick. But he decided to take it into his own hands. Well, actually, I'm going to get the free kick anyway. I'll just grab it. It was just weird. And I mean, their manager, John Bray, talked absolutely rot about this after the game, I've got to say. Said it was, never a free kick or anything. But, I mean, it's as blatant as it gets when you look back on the replays. To be fair, that their press were saying, from what I saw on Twitter afterwards, that it was stupid. There was no need for him to do it. Really, really idiotic.
Yeah,
I mean, even then, though, the free kick from the right wing, sort of in front of where the netting is between the home and away fans in the East Stand, guy whips it in. And it's going out. It's going over and out. There's no one behind the defender. Horsfall. And for whatever reason, he goes almost to head it and thinks, I can't get on the header. And he sticks his arm out and bundles it behind with his arm. And when he did it, we all shouted handball, but we're all like, has he actually just done that?
Yeah.
In the 93rd minute of this game, has he actually just decided to?
Yeah.
It was baffling. Absolutely baffling. And
not complaining, no?
Oh, no, not complaining at all. And to be fair, none of the Northampton players complained. It was one of the ones that, oh no, he didn't. He chested it. He knew he'd been caught red-handed, basically. And obviously, I think Simmo said after the game they didn't know who was going to take penalties because Dennis is down to take penalties for us at the moment. And obviously, he was off the pitch by this point. So up step Jordan Gibson. I think he's taken one already this season. And I think he won one against Stevenage. Yeah. And fair play, nerves of steel, wasn't it? Stepped up, wait for the keeper to move and just put it the other way. Bedlam. Noise, nothing. I've not heard noise like that in such a long time. There was people standing up on the dugouts and things like that, wasn't there? It was... when Brunton Park's like that, it's such a good place to be, isn't it?
There's no better place, is there?
No, it's incredible. I mean, you had a great view of it all as well up in the B stand. We had a great view in the paddock. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like in the Warwick end watching that penalty going as well. Nice to see the Warwick bouncing as well. So that was great stuff. We'll talk about the goals in the Newport game then, and we'll talk on some general points. A bit frustrating, the Newport game. First goal came in 15 minutes, Demetriou. I mean, to be fair, it's a really good set piece, isn't it?
Yeah, the ball was a cracking header.
Really, really terrific whip ball. Demetriou gets in, powers in, and basically hammers the header past Howard. Howard had absolutely no chance on this. But Only thing I'd maybe pick out from this is maybe Simmo could do better.
Possibly.
It's one of those ones where you look and you think he maybe should be holding on to his mic. It's a learning curve for him, isn't it, I suppose? Someone like Dimitri's got a bit of experience at this level. I think he should really probably be picking up a little bit better there. Second goal in 65 minutes. It was a sloppy one, this one, wasn't it? It just not great to watch this. I think it's fair to say. Newport got away. I think it all originally came, from Gibson giving the ball away, didn't it? I think deep in their half, which he did quite a lot against Newport, to be fair. They get away down the right. Collins has got acres of space, picks out Azaz on the edge of the box, and he hammers a shot into the roof of the net. Really good finish. A lot of people sort of criticising McDonald a little bit on this one. Interesting. I mean, I've watched it back on YouTube again because I sort of at the time I didn't really sort of pick it up. But if you watch, actually, he gets away, Collins, and McDonald is screaming at Feeney saying, "Get across, get across." I think McDonald was going to get back into the middle, but he doesn't. So then McDonald sort of starts to make a move across, and in the end, it was easy for him to take out the two defenders and pick out Azaz, wasn't it?
I wonder if some of that confusion on the second was down to Feeney just being used to Mellish beside him recently.
Yeah, probably as much.
And having more of an understanding. McDonald's been out a while. I did wonder if there was a little bit of that in it.
Yeah.
From what Paul Simpson said, I don't think McDonald would have started, but Mellish was running late because his partner's pregnant at the moment, and I think there'd been a little issue, and he couldn't guarantee he'd be there on time. As it was, he got there for 6:30, but he made the decision to start McDonald. I just wondered if it was, just the defending, because we also had Robertson for Armour on the left as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
So
not an ideal
that
one
whole
to make.
side was, that whole side was a little
Completely
bit
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult, wasn't it? Got one back with 10 minutes to go. Mari Patrick, 7th goal in 14 appearances. He's now equal the number of goals he got in his first spell with the club. In I think 3 times as quickly as something
2
like
months.
that. It's it shows that he probably is a striker these days, isn't he? A striker can play a bit out wide as well. But
yeah,
he's doing really well. Good play by Devine down the right, wasn't it? I think a good little bit of interchange passing actually before that, I should say. Then Riley sort of played a bit of a hospital ball straight at Devine's chest. He did well to control it. And then he just thought, I'm just going with it, didn't he? And he just kept going down the right, kept going. Eventually got into a bit of space, got a ball into the box, and it eventually found its way to Patrick. And full credit to Patrick. I thought he showed great resilience to hold off his man. Quick little turn on the ball, and it's kind of it's a weird goal, isn't it, Dan? Because he sort of.
I think their keeper will be a little bit disappointed with it because it just sort of rolls in, doesn't it?
But I think it's because he doesn't actually connect with it cleanly. If you watch it, he almost digs it into the ground. Whether that's deliberate or not, if it is, it's a smart move because it sort of bobbles over the keeper. The keeper doesn't have time to react. I think if he'd actually caught it cleanly, I think the keeper might have actually done a bit better with it. But I think he just completely bamboozled him and. Yeah, gave us a route back into the game, but it just wasn't quite enough, was it? And County held on to get all 3 points. We've got a dreadful record against them, haven't we, really, since they've come back in the league. I think we've only won 2 or 3 games, maybe, so there you go. Yeah, in terms of sort of general talking points, I mean, the first one's the obvious one, isn't it? One in front of a big crowd.
Yeah. I was having a look back. Someone mentioned when did we last win in front of a big crowd, and I think I found a game with Lincoln we won with about 6,800 in, which for the last sort of since we've been back in League Two is a decent crowd.
I mean, I suppose you'd say that's above average, but if you're talking above 7,000, for instance.
Yeah, I think people deem big crowds 8,000 plus at Brunton Park for some reason.
And for the last one of those. I don't know who it'd be. You might even have to go.
In Keynes, wasn't
it? Yeah, we didn't win that one, though, did we? Lost 2. Was it 2 or 3-1 against them? You might even be going back as far as something like that Huddersfield game, where we beat them about 10 years ago. Remember the one where Miller's back header? It's difficult to think, really, because we've not really had that many big sort of promotion chasing games in the same sort of style, but.
we haven't had much since we came back into
God, no, we haven't, have we, really? I mean, a lot of good stuff in the Cups, but it's been away from him, a lot of it, hasn't it? So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's fantastic. And just hearing a positive crowd at Brunton Park as well that actually got behind the team for most of the game as well. It's the impact Simpson has had. You cannot, I know he's tried to play it down himself, hasn't he? But you can't underestimate it and the fact that people have a bit of belief in the team right now, don't they?
Yeah, I walked back up into town with a mate after the match on Saturday, and there was just a buzz on Warwick Road. You know, it was like, yeah, I've not felt that in a while coming out of the ground. You know, it was like, and one number of young kids who were suddenly coming,
Yeah,
brilliant. Because I do think we slightly missed a bit of a generation, but you know, don't get us wrong. There's a couple of them being silly, running on the pitch.
yeah,
Obviously, some sort of dare thing. You know,
yeah.
it's and you know, I think one of them did actually get lifted, like handcuffed. I don't know if it was just a scare tactic or what, but you know,
Was that
others
the
will
little
see
ginger
that.
kid who managed to get all the way over to the away
Yeah, and
fans?
I think that'll maybe put the dampeners on it. You know, I mean, it is just hijinks, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you know, as a one-off, you could accept it, but it's a second game going, and you know, it only takes a referee to put it in his report, and you know.
Yeah, didn't get drugs, especially if it keeps happening as well.
If
That's
it
when you
keeps happening, you could end up with points after a fine, you know.
you could do indeed. I mean, you could almost get it with the Swindon game. They wanted to call it not Swindon, sorry, the Shrewsbury game, you know, and all the this content around about that time as well. But right now, the only aim is to stay in the league, so there's no need for any silly behaviour like that.
Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury in the FA Cup. Do you remember the?
Oh, yes,
That's how far
yeah.
back we're
I
going.
was just thinking when we play Shrewsbury in the league.
There you go. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that one of the funniest things was one of the young lads, the taller one, I think it was, who ran off. Embarrassingly, managed to get caught by a 70-odd-year-old steward.
Yeah.
Like he was like, "Come on, lad! If you're gonna do that, show yourself to be a bit
Yeah,
more
yeah.
mobile, at least." But there you go. So yeah, I think it's something the club have mentioned. It needs to start stop for now. I mean, we know it happens at the end of the season when you get promotion and stuff like that. It's inevitable. But right now, there's not. You don't need to be doing that. But there you go. But yeah, fantastic to see the Warwick so busy as well. And bouncing as well. Like you said, those young kids in there, they're really getting behind the team, aren't they? And they've got to harness that. If we can harness that over the next few years, and and more young kids come in and whatnot, you can have a Warwick Road end that's full of flags and things like that, and the fans really getting behind the team. That'll be the place to go for all the young'uns. Not for me. I'm too old now. I'm very much a paddock dweller these days. So
Yeah.
so there you go.
Creatures of habit.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, this game, the Northampton one. I mean, I think Simmo got man of the match for it, didn't it? I mean, hard to disagree with that. Feeney again was outstanding at the back.
Simmo and Feeney were the two standouts for me from that game.
And Mellish is just getting on with his job, isn't he? At the moment,
Yeah.
For me, he's a defender again. And if you're starting to think about next season at some point soon, hopefully if we get enough points to sort of secure our place, I think maybe another 2 or 3 wins will probably do it. I think you've got to build a defence around, if you're going to play a back three, which I think probably works, I think you do. You build it around having Feeney as your centre-back, of the centre of your three, Mellish on the left, and then maybe look and get someone else in, because I'd imagine Simmo next season, Southampton will probably want to get out to a League One club, I'd expect.
Yeah, if not Championship, possibly,
Yeah, exactly.
But Feeney can play right as well, I mean, if you could get like a Gerrard or a Hill type, I mean,
yeah.
no disrespect to Rod McDonald, but I think there's better out there, and that's not a slant on him in any way. I think if we want to start improving, we need to just try and get a bit better,
Yeah. One of the frustrating things about this game against Northampton, though, would be the injury to Devitt, wouldn't it? Because he's certainly made an impact since coming back in, isn't he? He's basically marshalling that midfield. He's keeping the ball really well, and he works hard for the team. We've been getting our 60 minutes out of him. So for him to pull up rather than be sub just to give him a rest was really frustrating.
He got scanned on Tuesday, Paul Simpson said, and they were waiting to hear whether it'd be a couple of weeks or maybe a bit longer. So
yeah, I think if it's longer, he'd probably only have, I think maybe like the last 4 games possibly left. So hopefully it's just the 2 weeks. So I'll be back for Bristol Rovers or Rochdale away maybe. But he's definitely made an impact. I mean, someone else was saying this to me that I speak to at games and stuff, and he was saying like one thing he noticed was that Devitt was practically refereeing the game against Northampton. There's a few times when the officials weren't 100% sure about decisions, and he was screaming at them saying it's ours, whatever, and they were giving it to us. And you might think, oh, that's not him doing it, but it does have an impact. Players who are vocal and will speak and speak up to the ref do get decisions quite often, and we've been quite soft with that this season, haven't we? Until he came in, I think it's fair to say. You notice that the team's definitely a bit more behind each other now, isn't it? There's definitely a bit more fight.
We've missed that in general, though. Just, I'm not. It's certainly not Dark Arts Newport level, but just a little bit of in-game management. You know, a little bit of
stuff like what happened against Oldham with the penalty.
Yeah.
Playing silly beggars.
I'm trying to think of the word to describe it, but just not cunning, but just
a bit of nous, a bit of experience.
Nous. That's probably the best word for it.
Yeah, definitely. But
it's actually a shame that Devitt will likely miss Saturday.
Oh yeah, because I'm pretty sure he would have been up for that game, wouldn't he? I think it's fair to say. Not going to be that many Carlisle connections that game now in the Barrow side at least. Anyway, no. But we'll have to wait and see.
Still one or two,
but not as many. But yeah, it was just the feeling at the final whistle, and like that's the first time in a long time as well that barely anybody's left at the end to clap the team off. You think like the Swindon game, there was barely anyone left in the ground, wasn't there? I know the Barrow tickets had a bit to do with that, but there was barely anyone remaining. This game, there were so many people still there to clap them off at the end, right until the last player came off as well. And that shows the sort of belief that Simmo's given to the team at the moment. So Newport game, 4 changes, not all of them enforced. Some of them were, some of them weren't. The enforced ones, obviously, they're unavoidable. I mentioned Mellish already. That just happened, and it's just the way it is. And Devitt, yeah, obviously because of the injury. The other 2 were Dennis coming out for Show Silver and Armour coming out for Roberts. Simmo's explanation.
I could see why with for Show Silver one.
Yes, I could grasp that. Yeah.
And it's sometimes good to rotate up top.
Yeah, definitely. For me, with the Roberts one and Armour one, I think, I was a bit when I saw that, I was like, is he injured or not? Is he? And when he said he wasn't, I was like, not sure I would have made that change personally, but obviously
I wonder if he would have made that change if he'd known about Mellish.
Possibly not. It's maybe one of those ones you look, if you'd known about Mellish.
He's maybe said to the 2 of them on Monday, look, I'm going to give you a little rest tomorrow, Jack. Give Roberts a game. Jack's went, yeah, no bother. And then he's had Mellish had to ring up and say, look, I'm running late.
Yeah.
And then you can't really go back after, promising the game.
It's whether you'd want to throw Rod back into the team that quickly as well, really, when he's come back from injury.
Well, I think Simpson said afterwards he wasn't planning on playing McDonald and Dickinson as long as he did, but, sometimes it happens.
Sometimes it does indeed. Obviously, Roberts came off for Omatoya in this game, and Dickinson slotted into left wing back. Did okay there, actually, I think, to be fair, Dickinson. I want to have a quick word on Omatoya, actually, because he's one that we've been sort of a bit dismissive of and saying he's been a really poor signing and stuff like that. And I think up until now he hasn't looked a good player at all. But credit where it's due, I thought he looked really lively when he came on this game, and he caused problems. And I think because we switched to a 3-4-3, didn't we? At that point when he came on, basically we had Patrick out right, Omatoya left, and Silva down the middle. I think he could do a really good job in that role. What do you think?
He looked better than any other time he's played.
Yeah, he looked like he had a bit of belief in him, and he was taking on his man. Yeah. And I know he had that chance where he skied over the bar. But if you watch it back, as he's trying to get into position, he accidentally clips his own heel. And that means he stumbles and he can't quite get himself sorted to actually get the shot away. Really frustrating, because if he hadn't done that, I think he would have scored probably from that position. But yeah, he looked lively, and you think it does beg the question: why was Keith Millen trying to play him as a central striker? Because it looks pretty clear to me that's the role he should be playing. And I think that's it. To be fair, Simmons actually said after the game, that's the role I see you playing, as a wide player who's going to cause problems and take on his man. And every time he got it, he tried to take on his man. He didn't look like was lacking confidence, which is really, really good to see as well. So, yeah, fair play to the lad. You know, he did really well when he came on. Silva, probably one of his better starts for us, but not quite the same impact as when he's been coming on as a sub, was it?
No. At the moment, he just seems to suit coming off the bench, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he won't want to be sort of pigeoned into that role. You know, every player wants to start, but at the moment,
I was going to say, Mike had said this to me the other day. I think it was. He's saying like it's quite like Glenn Murray in the way he sort of he's coming on as a sub, and he's all bustling and he's all because Murray had a little bit of pace when he was with us. You know, he could get away from a man, and he just causes nuisance when he comes on, and defenders don't know how to deal with him. But when he starts games, he's just not quite up to it yet. Doesn't mean he won't be in the long term, but he's got that kind of style about him, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Glenn Murray obviously didn't get lots of chances here, but when he did come off the bench, it could be useful. And you know, going forward into next season, you look at who we've got signed up striker-wise. You know, we know Shaw Silver's here, we know Dennis is here, Young Fishburne will be a first-year pro, Patrick. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what we do. You know,
yeah, because maybe we'll have a discussion about this next week. Actually, before the for after the Barrow game, but we'll have maybe actually wait a couple of games before we get a couple more wins on the board, maybe before we start talking about what we do for next season. Because we've discussed this, haven't we, in one of our WhatsApp chats about who we'd keep and who we wouldn't, and yeah, it throws up a lot of interesting debates because there are quite a few still already tied down for next season, and you don't want to have a squad that's already too top heavy, do you?
I think it was about 13 or 14, wasn't it?
I think my squad, I won't go into detail now, but basically, I think actually in total you would have 21 players already, but of those 4 are first year pros, so probably send out at least 3 of them out on loan maybe. And then 4 of them players in the squad, I would tell them they can leave basically, who are under contract for next season.
Look for a move.
Yeah, I think you can probably work out who some of those might be potentially. But yeah, it's a tough one to judge, isn't it? Like I said, Newport, probably one of the better sides we faced this season. Not quite as good as Forest Green were in the 2 games we played them, but so well drilled, and they've clearly, you can see why they're up near the top. And I wouldn't be too good if they went up, to be honest, because it takes a long distance away game out of the league, although I've still not been there, so a bit annoying that I haven't ticked it off yet. You've ticked it off, haven't you? I can't remember if you have.
Yeah, it's nothing to get excited about.
No, certainly not. So there you go. But yeah, 5 games in under Simmo, 12 points. Couldn't really have asked for much more, could you? Well, you could have asked for 15, but you'd have been greedy if you'd done that. But the impact he's had, and he's done quite a few like podcasts and interviews and things like that, hasn't he? I think since he's come in, and I just get the impression that he'd like to stay, but the off the field issues are kind of making him reluctant to make any sort of promise, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
if we could get Dean Henderson transferred as soon as the season finishes.
Well, Simmo worked for him, didn't he? Get him to have a word.
Would make it a lot cleaner, wouldn't it?
I think basically the debt issue needs to be resolved as soon as possible, and the club need to be aware of that, because there's a really big opportunity potentially to keep Simmo and let him build something in the summer. Whether they take that or not, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, reasonably happy over those 2 games. I'm not absolutely furious or devastated about the Newport result, because we showed a bit of battle and resolve. So
we've got 3 points from games against 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah,
which you can't knock.
No, you can't knock at all. Right, well, let's take a quick break then, Dan, before we come back, and we'll preview the Barrow game.
This is John Mellish. You listen to the Brunton Bugle.
And we're back for part 2 of the Brunton Bugle. Okay, so as usual this season, the podcast has been sponsored by the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch. The London branch is open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore, of course. Every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips, as well as arranging many social events and sports games, and do fundraising for the club. They'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of their our preview section, I should say, this season too. You can find out more about London Branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. Quick reminder as well, actually, you can subscribe to the podcast via all good podcast apps, whether that's Acast, Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anything like that. You just click subscribe on whatever app you use. Every time a new episode comes out, it'll come straight into your little inbox on the app. And obviously, you can give us a review on some of those ones as well. I think Apple and Spotify are the two main ones to give us reviews. I think we're on 5 stars for most of them as well, which is very, very generous. Thank you very much. And
Very
you can,
honoured.
yep, and you can follow us on social media at Brunton Bugle on Twitter. You can find the Brunton Bugle on Facebook. Just search for it and click like. And we're also on the Cumbrians.net message board and the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group. And as ever, if you want to go the old-fashioned way, drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. So looking ahead to this weekend's game, the London Branch have sent over the pub that their pub of choice. It's the Duke of Edinburgh. I think it's right by the station, isn't it? It's pretty much across the road from it.
Yeah, when from memory, it's a few years since being in Barrow. You come out the station, to get to Holker Street, you basically turn right.
Yes.
Walk up the road, over the crossroads, and you can't miss it.
Yeah.
The Duke of Edinburgh is just on the left-hand side, I think.
I think it's basically, when you come out of the station, as you say, you turn right, but it's actually a crossroads. If you come out and you go straight across the crossroads, sort of top left, if you want to put that way, northwest, if you're looking straight at it, you basically come to where the Duke of Edinburgh is. You can't miss it by all accounts when you come out. I'm presuming as away fans were allowed to go in there. I've not heard anything otherwise. I'm guessing London.
It wouldn't surprise me if it's our designated pub for the game.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Right by the station, and then
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll want to march us up to the ground at some point, I guess. But there you go. Okay, Dan, this is the section of the show, of course, where we do our Behind Enemy Lines part. That's obviously where we talk to an opposition fan ahead of the big game. Obviously, this weekend we're playing Barrow, so we took the time to speak to Adam Johnson, who is the BBC Radio Cumbria commentator for Barrow games. Adam very kindly gave up his time. He had a very busy schedule ahead of the game, so really, really appreciate him giving up a bit of time to speak to us. What did we talk about? Well, we talked about what Blues fans can expect from their trip to Furness this weekend, any future plans for Holker Street, and how the former Blues have been getting on in their squad. Here's the chat I had with Adam earlier this week. Adam, last summer when Barrow appointed Mark Cooper as manager to replace the 3 different managers you had last season, you made some decent recruitment, and there was a bit of expectation, I think, that Barrow might do a little bit better this season than they did last time out, obviously when you were basically, your main aim was to keep yourselves in the league in that first season back. It's not quite happened this season, has it? What do you think the reason is behind that?
I think there's been a lot of issues, both on and off the pitch, I think, really, during the course of the summer. I think following Mark Cooper's appointment, I mean, he did all his recruitment early, so on that level, I don't think that was one of the major issues, but certainly the training ground situation, they didn't have a settled training base in the summer, which meant they were pretty much having to work and try and find places that they could train, and sometimes they were turning up at venues and they're just unable to train there. So it made things a bit scratched during the summer, which meant the start to the season, they weren't 100% prepared. They were having to basically use the first couple of months of the active, league season as a form of a pre-season to get the players fit. So they weren't firing at all cylinders right at the start of the season. I think they had a little patch where results did start going for them. They had put together 2 or 3 very, very good wins, which saw them up the table, but there was always that little bit of a nearly side. They were either scoring goals but weren't keeping them out, or if they switched to a more defensive side, they just...
Hello everyone, Lee here. Just a little note, the sound cut out on Adam's feed here, so I don't know exactly what he said, so it sounds a bit weird, it cuts back in, but nothing I could do really. I didn't want to spoil the flow of the interview, so there you go.
That had the effect on how they would fare during the campaign, I think.
Looking at your most recent form, Adam, you've quite a long run where you've only had a few wins in there, but you've not lost a huge amount of games, have you? You've drawn quite a few, especially in recent weeks. What's the reason behind that? Is it just a struggle to score goals as much as anything?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. They never really replaced Scott Quigley in the summer. That's been the big thing, I think, that that supporters have picked up on, and I think it's a big thing that Mark Cooper himself has realised as well. They tried it with Zanzala, it didn't quite work out for him one way or another, and ultimately they've just not had that main focal striker up front. They've got plenty of players that get in positions, plenty of players that you could probably class as second strikers, that if you had the main key man up front, then they'd be able to work off them. I mean, Josh Gordon being one of them, he's been a good addition to the squad, but he's not the kind of player that's going to score you 10, 15, 20 goals, which you need to be a success at this level. So ultimately, I mean, they're creating chances. Just Tuesday night, just gone, for example, they had 5, 6 real good opportunities, and we're talking 1v1s that they didn't put away, and that's the ultimate thing, really. The amount of chances that they've created in games, they've just not scored them. Defensively, they've been solid, they've been sound, but they've just got no one at the other end of the field to bag those goals, and that's evident with the amount of 0-0 draws that the sides had this season.
Looking away from the league though this season, which hasn't been quite as good for you, the cup run's been pretty good. I mean, the FA Cup especially, that must have been particularly for you as a commentator, getting your commentary was on all kinds of different places, wasn't it? For the game at Barnsley, I mean, what a game that was.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's me here talking about Barrow's struggling to score goals, and then there's me commentating on a 9-goal thriller at Oakwell in the FA Cup. But yeah, the cup's been fantastic for the club. I mean, just at the start of the season, it shows how vital staying in the Football League is, because you win one game in the League Cup, and then next minute you've got a sellout crowd in front of the Sky TV cameras at Holker Street against a side like Aston Villa. I mean, yes, the result wasn't fantastic, but it was one of those games that the result was an afterthought. What it was about was getting the club out there in the public eye, having that fantastic sellout, memories for some people, and to try and attract new supporters to the club. And there's no better way to do it than have a Sky TV fixture against a team like Aston Villa in the League Cup. And we followed that on. The luck that they've had in the cups has been fantastic this season. A TV game against Banbury in the first round, followed up with a replay against Ipswich, which was televised, and a fantastic 2-0 victory against Ipswich at Holker Street to set up that third round tie against Barnsley. And I think financially the club has certainly reaped rewards from the cup runs, and I think for the club in general it's been fantastic, again, trying to build that fan base and trying to put the club into a right step for moving forward and being able to build on it.
Talk about Holker Street itself. Obviously, for Carlisle fans, it's going to be probably, for a lot of them, their first ever visit to Holker Street, because it's the first time we've played you in a competitive fixture for 54 years, something like that, with fans being able to attend. Some will have gone to friendlies. I've been to a couple of friendlies down there in the past, but what can Blues fans expect when they get to Holker Street? I know it's not probably like a lot of league grounds they've been to, and I know that you've done a bit of work over the summer. Is there any other plans as well to do more renovations at Barrow?
Well, it is very much work in progress. Obviously, the Holker Street end now has the roof on it, which was one of the big building things on the back of the promotion being announced and Barrow being promoted into the Football League. They've added to the away part of that, so there's 112 seats inside the covered part of the Holker Street end. There's a bit next to the seats which is covered, which the supporters will be able to have, and then there's the corner which sadly is open to the elements, so you're left fingers crossed that it's going to be some good weather put on Barrow tomorrow afternoon. The catering side of things, the club have worked hard to sort an actual bar facility that away fans can use in the corner of the Holker Street end, so there's all that in there. In terms of ongoing work, there is more seats that do need to be put into the ground, which the board and other people are working tirelessly on about where they're going to go. So that's pretty much going to be the building job during the summer. And then all in all, it's just a case of build as it goes. It's very much an ongoing project. The ground before everything started really happening had got into a sense of disrepair. It was unloved for a lot of years. The new board that came in on the back of the departure of the Cassins straight away worked on improving the ground at Holker Street, and pretty much it's been ongoing building work after building work after building work every year, every summer, that ground does not switch off. It becomes a building site as soon as the final ball's been kicked, pretty much right up until the first ball gets kicked in pre-season. Sometimes even during pre-season, there's still bits and bobs of building work ongoing at the ground. So it is very much a working project. But yeah, the board never rest until the work is done on that ground. And one of the key people involved in the board at the ground, that's his trade. He's not a football supporter in any shape or form, but his trade is building, and he wants to provide something there at Holker Street for the supporters.
Well, hopefully they'll keep going as well. Because it's one of those things, isn't it? I suppose when you get promoted to the league, your first priority is to keep yourselves in the league as much as anything, isn't it? Rather than looking at doing building work on the ground and stuff like that. Let's talk about the ex-Blues in your squad then. What I'll do is I'll leave out Tom White and Connor Brown because they didn't really get involved as much at Carlisle, so it's probably not so much to talk about them. I want to talk more about, obviously, you've mentioned Paul Farman and his, again, like he was for us, brilliant clean sheet record this season. Pat Brough, who's basically an ever-present pretty much for you guys as well. And Mike Jones, who's probably been a little bit more unfortunate, I think it's fair to say, with his 2 years with you. Just tell us a little bit about how those three are getting on.
Oh, Paul Farman, as you said, I think he stands for himself, doesn't he? He's a fantastic, experienced goalkeeper. And when the club pretty much knew that they were going to lose Joel Dixon, the first thing that they had to do was go out there and identify a good replacement for him. And I think in Paul Farman, I think you've got that. He's got obviously a lot more experience than Joel Dixon did have, and I think it shows. I think he's a good, solid person in there. He's communication, I think, with his backline as well. It's evident. And sadly, the one thing that I don't think Barrow have seen a lot of is his distribution, because that's one of the things that stood out straight away. Is you know how good he can be on the distribution side of things, and I think Barrow have played a lot more out from the back, and so that takes really that out of the equation for Paul Farman. Although the fourth goal against Barnsley in the FA Cup game did come from a long punted ball forward from Paul Farman, so I think you've seen it in brief sparks, but maybe not on the full. But overall, I mean, 12 clean sheets this season. That just shows really how many points he's actually won the side, probably on his own at times when they've been lacking on the goal scoring front. Patrick Brough, I mean, again, he's another player that's so reliable for Barrow. He's played in a number of positions for the club since being signed by Ian Evatt. He started off as a left back in a back four, then he moved into centre half in the promotion winning season. Then following Evatt's departure, he was moved out to left wing back, even at times last season being played as a left centre forward. 6 goals with his name last campaign, so that hence the Cumbrian Carlos nickname that he was dubbed. And I think he's gone on from there. He's not been as prolific on the attacking side of things this season, and again he's been sacrificed a little bit and forced back into a more defensive role back at centre half. But you can always guarantee that he's going to give you 100%, 110% every time he goes out on the field. He's a fantastic professional, and yeah, he's just been a great addition ever since he's come into the club. Mike Jones, you've just got to feel for the guy, because when he first came in, he was contributing well, and he was looking at a big part of David Dunn's midfield, not just for his experience but his ability as well. Scored 2-3 very, very good goals for the club, and his overall gameplay was certainly a big plus as well. Then he picked up that unfortunate injury, and sadly he's just never really been able to recover from that injury. He's back in and amongst the squad this season, but it's just, I think the problem is there is midfield has been one of the areas where Barrow have not really needed to strengthen. They've had a lot of good quality numbers in the central midfield positions. I mean, when you look at Jordan Stevens, Robbie Gotts, Tom White, who you've already mentioned briefly, Ollie Banks, who's the top scorer this season with 11 goals, and then you throw in John Rooney being brought back into the side in January. It's going to be so hard for somebody to break into that midfield role. But from what I gather, I mean, I've just finished speaking to Mark Cooper now, doing the pre-match interview, and very much he's put credit on Mike Jones that although he's not playing, he's still a big part in and around the dressing room with his leadership and everything else. So he's still playing a massive part in what Barrow are trying to do.
Yeah, he's a great character, Mike Jones, and I think over his sort of 3 or 4 years with us, he was really popular for that as well. The fact that he was just a good person to have around the club as much as anything, and I'm sure all Carla fans are pretty gutted for him, as we are obviously for Jamie Devitt. Obviously, we're recording this after we've already recorded the pod where we weren't sure what was happening with Jamie Devitt, and obviously sad news is he's out for the season with his hamstring injury, so won't talk too much about him in terms of the ones who've departed, but a quick one on Mark Ellis and obviously you mentioned earlier Zanzala. Just more bit about why they've moved on. I think Ellis just wasn't getting games really, was he? And Zanzala, they just seemed to be a bit of just didn't work out for him since he joined you.
With Mark Ellis, I mean, he started the season, he was very much ever present, and then I think he just lost his place in the side. And again, they've strengthened since then. Now Canavan has been brought in, and when you look at Mark Cooper very much wants to play a back three. He always tries to stick to his formations, and a back three is one of his main things. And he just couldn't get in the side, Mark Ellis. And when you're at the age that he is, you just want to play football, don't you? You want game time. Solihull have come in, have offered a good loan opportunity for him, and he's moved on from there. And you wish him the very best. He's a great professional, and again, I'm sure, even though he wasn't playing, I'm sure he would have been a great person in and around the dressing room that would have helped the players massively. But you can't stand in the way of someone wanting game time. Zanzala, it's just so frustrating because he started the season. He was one of the players that unfortunately picked up an injury in the first pre-season game against Holcare. So it took him pretty much the whole of pre-season. He was gone. It was a write-off. He came back in the Scunthorpe game in the League Cup. He was a substitute in the second half in that game, putting a good performance in the 20 or so minutes that he was on the field. He looked sharp. He looked bright. 3 minutes into the following game where he starts against Hartlepool, he goes on a solo run, scores an absolute fantastic finish, and you're thinking, here we go, you've got something here. But unfortunately, that's all it was. It was just little sparks here and there where he'd show quality, and then he'd disappear and fade off into games. And again, pretty much like the Mark Ellis situation, it got to a point where he wasn't getting game time. He needed game time to try and break the rut that he was in with scoring goals. And I think ultimately, again, Exeter came in, they offered a good opportunity for him, and he's moved on now, and you wish him the very best at Exeter for the rest of this season, whether the opportunity could be there for him to come back in the summer, because he was on a 2-year deal. So whether that is an opportunity there, if he can refine his form, refine his footing at Exeter, we know whether he comes back in the summer a bit more refreshed, a bit more recharged. But again, it's just frustration really that it didn't work out the way that, say, 3 minutes into his first start, you're thinking this is something good here. Maybe they have replaced Scott Quigley. Maybe this is the guy that is going to go and score 15, 20 goals. But sadly, it just didn't work out.
He's a strange one, Zanzala. When he was with us, there was a feeling of when he was, like you said, when he was on it, he was unplayable. You couldn't deal with him. But it took him about 7 or 8 games to actually get up to speed with us at the start, which probably frustrated things. But there you go. Adam, I really appreciate you giving your time. Before we finish, we always ask for a prediction. I know it's difficult for you because you don't want to put a commentator's curse on it, but have you got a prediction for this weekend's game?
As the impartial commentator that I am, Lee, tomorrow, I think it's impossible for me to give a prediction. No, I never give predictions. That's one thing I don't do. I think no matter what I say, the exact opposite will occur. So after the game back in November, I'm going to say it's going to be the most boringest 0-0 draw that's ever been seen in football, and hopefully the exact opposite will occur then.
Well, hopefully it will be a bit more exciting than that game, because it wasn't a great contest, I think it's fair to say. Adam, really appreciate giving up your time. Normally at this point, I wish people all the best for the rest of the season. It's a difficult one because you're around us, but I'm gonna be fair and wish you all the best for the rest of the season after this weekend.
Same to you, Lee.
Big thanks once again to Adam Johnson for giving up his time, because I know he had a very busy schedule this week ahead of the game, doing a lot of stuff up at Radio Cumbria. So thank you once again to him. So there you go. We'll hopefully be back next weekend for the Bristol Rovers game, or maybe even the Rochdale away game. We might do that actually, because Rochdale have got some interesting things going on off the pitch at the moment, haven't they? It's
Certainly have.
a little bit worrying for them. I feel for them because their fans have done a really good job, haven't they, in terms of
I
turning
do
things
think
around.
any talk of point deductions could well be next season, not this season. Though.
Yeah, and it would be incredibly harsh considering the fans are the
Yeah.
ones who've sorted it out, really. But that's the EFL for you, isn't it? That's where you need a bit of reform, don't you, to actually work out what we do with these sort of things. But there you go. Okay. So, this weekend's game at Holker Street. Referee for the game, Dan. It's our old friend, Bobby Madley.
Bobby Madley.
Behave yourself before we start this, by the way, because I know what you're
I'm not
going
going to say a word.
You're going to make a noise, though. I know you're going to make a noise.
No,
I know
I'm
it's
not.
coming. No, okay.
Just testing you. I needed a cup there.
So this is Madley's second season back as an EFL referee. It's actually his first season was actually back in 2010-11, and he got up to Premier League refereeing. But he had a few issues away from the pitch, didn't he? I think it's fair to say, Dan. Not the issues that everyone was saying he was rumoured to.
Yeah,
be involved
he had
in.
a bit of a woof time, didn't he?
Oh, behave, for God's sake. You wait for that. But yeah, essentially there was an incident about you know what, just Google it. If you're not bothered, Google it, you'll find the information. But yeah, he's back as an EFL referee after a little spell in Norway, because I think his missus is from over there, isn't he? I think he moved over there for a little bit. Now they've moved back to England. So he's just doing League One and League Two at the moment. I think he's just happy to be back refereeing, isn't he? I think after what he went through.
Yeah.
This season he's taken charge of 30 games, handing out 107 yellow and 4 red cards. I mean, 107 does sound like a lot, but it's only actually just under 4 a game, isn't it? So it's not a massive amount, I suppose, in that sense. Last took charge of United game for the home game against Leyton Orient back in August at the start of the season. Finished a 1-1 draw. He gave us a penalty for a handball early on, didn't he? I think in this game. I mean, it was a blatant handball as well. It wasn't even like a close decision, so fair play on that. So head-to-head for the big game, Dan. It'll be the 64th time we've played the Bluebirds. Quite incredible, actually, isn't it, when you think that we didn't play them for, 50-odd years? Was it something like that, I think? And, you know, some of these other clubs have been playing for years, and we're struggling to get to, 50, 60 games, really? So
Yeah, I think it goes back to the old regionalised leagues, doesn't it?
yeah, very much back to that. So head-to-head, we're ahead on this one. 24 wins for the Blues compared to 18 draws and 21 wins for Barrow. Last season, the Bluebirds finished in at 21st in League Two. They're currently 21st in League Two. No shock there, really, is there? I mean, quite a few teams that's happened with this season, isn't there, I think, from what I can remember as well, isn't there? There's a few ones we've done recently. I think Newport were 5th ahead of this week's game, and they were 5th last season, obviously. So there you go. Manager, Mark Cooper. He's managed a fair few clubs, hasn't he? I think it's fair to say. Not quite as long as John Sheridan's list, but not far off.
I don't think anyone will ever beat John Sheridan's list.
No, certainly not. First managerial spell was at Tamworth, and then he went to Kettering. He had 2 spells at Kettering, actually. I think just before, I think he went to Swindon possibly, or maybe after Telford, I'm not sure. But yes, he had 2 spells at Kettering. He went from there to Peterborough United. He was at Darlington, AFC Telford United, Swindon Town, Notts County, and of course Forest Green Rovers, who got promoted into the Football League. I think it's fair to say he was seen as a bit of a statement appointment, wasn't it, by Barrow when he got the job last summer? Kind of them saying, look, we've got a bigger manager in now. We've got someone, who's done it at a decent level. After his success at Forest Green especially. But he struggled to make an impact, I think it's fair to say. Dan, he's not really... Controversy does follow him around quite a bit, doesn't it, in his career? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement, given his 8-match ban at the moment, is it?
Yes, 8-match ban for making a sexist comment towards a match official in a game pretty much at the start of the season. So the FA moving super quick on getting that one done, although we don't know, it might be one where he, requested a hearing or something like that, and, sometimes takes a while to set these up.
Took forever to get sorted.
Yeah, but it kind of smacks a little bit of they've been trying to nail him on something for quite a while, and finally he's done something like this. Like, great, we've got him now. Let's give him his lengthy ban. Not that I've got any sympathy for him, to be fair, but yeah, it's he's been involved in controversy when he was at Forest Green in terms of an alleged comment he made about just in Edinburgh against Leyton Orient, I think it was, which was denied, and I don't think he was ever charged for it, but it left a bad taste in the mouth, considering he's an ex-Orient player as well. Not really a great thing to be doing if he allegedly did it, but yeah, if you ever listen to his post-match interviews in Radio Cumbria, he's not a happy chappy, is he?
No, he's... I wonder if there will be a mutual parting at the end of the season.
I think that's the only way they're going to sort it, because the biggest problem is they appointed him in
He's got another
May.
2 years, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's on a 3-year deal. So that shows the risks of doing this. If it doesn't go well, you're stuck with someone for a while, aren't you? Especially if... I can understand giving a 3-year deal to someone who's been in charge for 2 years, something you know what he's like and you know what to expect from him, but someone coming in straight off the bat... Big risk financially, because I can imagine he's not on a cheap wage either as a manager to come all the way up to Barrow as well, because I'm pretty sure he's southern based. So, a really interesting one, that one, isn't it? Whether they can afford to sack him, that's the problem. I think they might be stuck with him for a while, possibly. But yeah, he's not really had the impact you would have hoped, I think it's fair to say. Last time out, so in midweek, they played against Scunthorpe United, the team bottom of the league, and they picked up their first win in 8 games thanks to a John Rooney goal. I think it
was a perfect game for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were helped by Anthony Grant being sent off in like the 10th minute, something like that, for Scunthorpe. So they played most of the game for 10 men. Barrow had a man sent off late on for a second booking as well, but picked up all 3 points. The one thing that stood out for me when I was getting the information for this game, Dan, is have a look at the lineups. Didn't make a single sub. It's interesting because coming into a big game this weekend, that team's played the full 90 minutes. I suppose he's one of the ones he's just like, I'm going to stick with the team and we're going to get a result here. But
there's also only 6 subs as well.
I mean, they're still only allowed 6 subs, aren't they, at the moment? Because I think they don't have a youth set up, basically. Yet.
Is that... I thought that was cancelled. Oh no, but they won't have anyone that's come through.
They've got no one in their squad who is developed by the club, basically. That's the problem they've got at the moment. So yeah, they it's interesting they didn't make a single sub. It's could be an interesting one come the weekend. We might be a little bit fresh, especially considering we obviously Armour's had a rest for us. Mellish has had a rest for us. Dennis has only played half an hour or 20 minutes something in midweek. We should have a fairly fresh squad for the game at the weekend, so that might just play into our hands a little bit. They're currently 14th in the last 6 games form table with a record of drawn, lost, drawn, won. United are 4th in that table. They're not. It's interesting because they've not been losing many games, have they? But they've not been winning. They've been drawing a lot of games of late, from what I've noticed. They just don't seem capable of getting a win.
They don't score many goals. That's the problem.
No, they certainly
don't. You look at the games from the start of February. Won 1-0, drew 1-1, lost 3-1, 0-0, 0-0, 0-1, 1-1, 0-0, 1-0.
Yeah.
But that's all going to change on Saturday. Is it guest time yet? No,
not yet. You can't. I can imagine what you're going to predict for this game now. I've already got it in my head. I have a feeling it's going to be just short of double figures, possibly. But there you go. Okay, so quick look through their squad, Dan. There is a bit of quality in there, isn't there? To be fair, I do think they're underperforming a bit this season. For the squad they've got.
I'd agree. Paul Farman, we know Paul Farman's won them points recently by all accounts.
I think 12 clean sheets I think he's kept this season for them already.
He made Team of the Week at some point recently. John Rooney coming back is the obvious one.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Stockport let him go, but I'm guessing they've got a bit of an embarrassment of riches these days, I guess.
Gotson Stevens in the middle,
Yeah, Ollie Banks.
Tom White doesn't really get a start for them, Tom White's a decent player.
Like I say, you're looking at midfield there, as you said. You've got Gotts, you've got Banks, you've got Rooney. You've got, Mike Jones.
Josh Cade does all right, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm guessing Mike Jones must be injured at the moment. I mean, that's probably him finished in the Football League now, isn't it, sadly? Beadling's playing a bit for them as well, you know. So up front, they've got a mixed bag up front, I think it's fair to say. I mean...
He won't be on Saturday.
Will it?
Beadling, he got sent
Oh,
off,
no,
didn't
of course he won't. He won't, no.
Yeah.
You're right, exactly. I mean, Luke James is a player who, you know, had such promise early on, didn't he? And never really quite fulfilled it. I remember as a 17-year-old for Hartlepool, he was terrifying, wasn't he? He was a really good player.
Still only 27.
Oh, it's incredible. Oh, yeah, thinking about that, then that would have been... Yeah, it would have been round about the time we were both in League One, wasn't it? And he was a really good player for them then.
He just seems to keep going back to Hartlepool and Barrow, you know.
Yeah, just flips
Ping
between them,
pongs between the two of them, you know.
I mean, Josh Gordon's a player who's looked good at Walsall at times, a bit hit and miss sometimes though. Amadi Holiday, I thought he was actually quite a decent signing for them in January. He was a big target man. I think he's one that we were linked with actually, wasn't it? I think sometime before Christmas. Yeah, they were quite busy in January though, weren't they? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
In terms of the players they brought in. 6 players came in, only 3 departed. Players arriving at Hull Street were permanent signings John Rooney from Stockport and Niall Canavan from Bradford. Niall Canavan was the Bradford captain, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He had a major fallout with Derek Adams, didn't he? And he basically decided, I'll sell him. And then Derek Adams was gone within a few weeks, so it was a bit of a weird one, that one, wasn't it? He's probably not quite made the impact he would have hoped so far at Barrow. In terms of, alongside that, also loanees, Anthony Glennon from Burnley, Jacob Wakeling from Leicester City, Will Harris from Sunderland, and Amadi Holiday, as you mentioned already, from Burton Albion. The departures were all former Blues players, weren't they? The ones who left in January. So you've got Mark Ellis, who's gone out on loan to Solihull Moors in the National League, and Ozzy Zanzala has gone to Exeter. I think is he out for the rest of the season, Zanzala, or is he possibly going to be back?
I think he's back now.
Is he? Right. I wasn't sure. He picked up an injury not long after signing, didn't he? But, again, that was a weird one because they signed him as their big marquee signing in the summer, and then he scored a few goals. It's not like he didn't. He only scored like 2 goals or like that. He scored about 7 or 8.
He started the last 2 games for Exeter.
There you go. But did he score like 7 or 8 for Barrow at the start of the season, something like that? In all competitions?
Yeah, he started quite well. He got 3 in the league, and he got 1 in the FA Cup and the trophy. So he got 5 goals, you know.
Yeah, and then basically just again had a fallout with Cuba, didn't he?
Yeah,
and got basically bombed out. And of course the other one who left Barrow in January, we all know about that. Jamie Devitt returning to Brunton Park.
Cheers, lads.
Yeah, I was quite happy with that one. He's done all right so far. Shame about the injury, but you know, there you go. But yeah, really interesting to see how this one goes because, like I said, I feel like they're underperforming Barrow, but at the same time, they've been down there most of the season. So are they underperforming? Maybe we're just over it, exaggerating how good they actually are. They've got 1 or 2 players who are decent, and they've got players on long contracts. So I think Ollie Banks is on a 3-year deal there as well.
Yeah,
if they go down, it could be quite tough for them. I think staying up is
financially.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It could be a real hit for them because I mean. I know you get a slight parachute payment when you go down, don't you, from the Football League? It's not as big as obviously like the Premier League ones when they get to the Championship, but there is a bit of a comfort blanket there. But yeah, it could be tough for them. I feel for them it's potentially a bigger hit for them to take than say Scunthorpe, who've pretty much pared back their squad over the last couple of years anyway. They could probably have a fresh start if they've got any money behind them, which I don't think they have. But
I think if Barrow go down, I don't think they'd come back for a long while.
No, I think it would be tough for them. I think it would really
because there's that much money at that top end of the National League now. I just don't think it would happen.
I think for them, staying up this season is massive.
Massive, yeah.
Really massive. Let's talk about United then, Dan. Injuries. McDonald and Dickinson, both back fit, both played the full 90 minutes against Newport. I'd imagine they probably both go back onto the bench at the weekend, maybe. We'll discuss that in a sec. But good to see them back. Jamie Devitt out for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer with his hamstring injury. Touré's still working his way back. Touré's been working his way back to fitness for months now.
Yeah.
I think he's had a few like little niggle injuries, hasn't he? I think just caught him a little bit. And obviously, I think Mellor potentially back in the next 3 weeks or so, isn't it? I think they were saying. And Senior probably not going to be until sometime into next season that he'll be back, I'd imagine, with the injury he's got. And also, you mentioned the loanies before, Abrahams, Charters and Mampala all out on loan still. So, Dan, for the team for this game, after sort of the tweaks in midweek, you'd imagine the first thing he's going to do is restore that defence, isn't he? I mean, you go back to what he had.
I would say Armour and Militia back in. And I would probably say Dennis will come in for sure, Silver.
Yeah.
The big debate is who replaces Devitt. And, you know...
There's a debate on who replaces Devitt. I think there's also a little debate of whether maybe Jordan Gibson has a rest.
Yeah.
I didn't like it when Millen did it, because at the time I think he was actually playing well and it was just a weird decision. One of the many weird decisions he made. But at the moment, last few games, even allowing for the coolness of that penalty, he's not quite been as good as we know he can be. I think against Newport he had a stink. I think anyone would. I think he would accept that as well.
I would say Dickinson's probably got more defensive nous than Gibson.
I wonder if you maybe go from this, because we've been sort of playing a 3-4-1-2 almost, haven't we? With Gibson playing a little bit further forward than the other two midfielders, although he can drop deeper as well. So it's like it can be a 3-5-2, but it's also 3-4-1-2.
Yeah.
I wonder if you switch to a 3-4-3, because we look quite good with that 3-4-3 towards the end against Newport. And I don't think I would have said this a few weeks ago, but I'd start on Matoya. I'd play him on the left, Patrick on the right, Dennis down the middle, and go 3-4-3. Have a real good go at them. What do you reckon? It's brave. I know when you're playing away from home, you might want to play a bit tighter.
Who plays beside Guy?
I'd put Devine in there. I'd keep it tight.
Yeah.
Keep it really tight. I think Devine looked pretty... Devine's a weird one because he has those games where he looks like a really good player, real good sort of driving midfielder who can bring the ball forward and stuff like that. And then he has others where he's just not in the game at all. When he came on as a sub against Newport, he looked like that driving player who could really make an impact. But his other games he started this season when I thought, God, you're not good enough for this level for us. So it's a tough judge. I think Devine has to play for me. I think I'd play Devine alongside Guy, definitely in this game. Your question is whether you start Gibson or not for me. That's the big question. I mean, Dennis, we know Dennis is going to come in for Show Silver. We're pretty certain of that. Would you get Gibson or would you just keep playing him?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know. Because I think he'll be annoyed with himself after midweek. Yeah. Especially after he scored on Saturday.
It's almost one of the ones, if you drop him, you do it deliberately to try and get a bit of a rise out of him and try and say, right, you're going to come on as a sub later on, but, you know, we're giving you a little rest here. You make your impact off the bench and he'll come on frustrated and you hopefully have an impact. Because the problem is he's been a bit sloppy with his passing in recent games for me. But one thing he's very good at, Gibson, when he plays in the midfield role, is nicking the ball off players. Just running and nicking it off them. He's not particularly great at just, you know, tracking back and tackling, because he's a flair player, he's an attacking player. He's not going to be like that, but he's good at just showing a bit of pace and nipping in and getting the ball. I wonder if maybe later on in the game he could make a really big impact by doing that. Possibly. That might be the option to go for there, but hey, that's Simmo's decision to make. I'm sure we're going to see changes for this one, aren't we? We're not going to see the same team, I'm pretty sure of that. So there you go. One other point before we do our match predictions, Dan. Owen Winters completely disappeared,
didn't he?
It's a strange one, this one, isn't it? Because obviously, first few games, I thought the first game especially looked very lively. Looked like we had a decent player in our hands. He's not even been in the matchday squad for about 3 or 4 games now, or something like that.
Yeah. Maybe got a niggle.
Possibly a niggle, but it's a strange one, isn't it? The fact that he's just completely... I mean, Roberts obviously dropped out for a couple of games, but he's come back in, so no issues there. It's a very strange one, that one, I think it's fair to say. Match predictions then, Dan. What are we going for?
Barrow 0, Carlisle 5.
Well, not as big as I expected.
Patrick 5.
Patrick 5, God almighty. Okay, so you reckon
They will
Amari's...
build a statue of him in the dockyards after Saturday.
Oh dear. Right, okay. 5-0 you're going for. Bloody hell. I'm going to go for 2-1. It's going to be nervy, but I think 2-1. And I think Patrick and Dennis will finally get that first goal for us. That's what I'm going to go for. In fact, no, actually, I'm going to go for Patrick and Mellish to get the goals. I reckon Mellish will get a goal. I just feel like he's due one for a while. There you go. Should we do Mike's predictions then? And then we've got Mike's question to follow that.
So I'm predicting a 3-1 win with Dennis and Patrick and Feeney getting our goals.
Ooh, Big Morgan to get another goal. There you go. So we're all going for wins. That does not bode well, does it? We're all going for the same thing, like a win. Never bodes well, that, I think it's fair to say. There you go. So before we do the X-Files section, Dan, Mike has sent a question. He's not sent me an answer audio, so I'm going to have to actually search for it myself. Thanks for this one, Mike. Very well organised. But here's Mike's question for this week, and what we'll do is we'll do the answer after the X-Files section.
So a player that's played for both teams is Glenn Murray. Can you name the 12 clubs that he represented during his career?
Oh, bloody hell, right, okay. We can have a good go at that, can't we? I think it's fair to say once we've done the X-Files section. So, over to you then, Dan. Got a busier X-Files section this week, I think it's fair to say?
Yeah, a bit busier than normal. As just after we recorded last week, James Tavernier got his traditional penalty for Rangers in the 3-0 win over Red Star Belgrade, or Crvena Zvezda.
One for the hipsters there.
Proper pronunciation. I've been to the Grounding Museum. It's fantastic.
I imagine it is.
He also scored another penalty for Rangers in the 3-0 Scottish Cup win at Dundee on the weekend.
That game against Red Star Belgrade, I watched quite a bit of this on BT Sport. I've not really
that
watched...
first half was crazy.
I've not watched much Europa League this season, but I always forget how good a competition it is. You get some absolutely balmy games, and genuinely, Red Star Belgrade could have won it 4-3.
Yeah.
It was a mad game.
It could have been 5-5. It was that, both had goals disallowed, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, Gary Medine scored the winner. Blackpool's 1-0 win over Swansea. Another 1-0 win, Macaulay Gillespie for Plymouth in a 1-0 win at Bolton.
That's
win,
their
that.
first win at Bolton in 55 years.
There you go.
We won't have played them much in that time, but still.
Yeah.
There you go.
Callum O'Hare scored twice for Coventry in a 4-1 win over Sheffield United.
Don't hear about him scoring that much these days, do we? Really?
No,
it's
so
quite quiet.
Yeah.
But they've got an outside chance of the playoffs, haven't they, in the Championship? They're just 4 points outside. Yeah.
Ryan Bowman scored for Shrewsbury in a 2-1 home defeat to Oxford. And similar sort of time, Andy Cook scored in Bradford's sort of a surprise 2-0 win.
I put surprise, but actually it probably isn't, because
Forest Green have hit a bit of a bump, haven't
well,
they?
I thought they've got a decent buffer there. They'll be fine. But actually, looking at it now, I'm thinking, title maybe is looking a bit tougher for them now. I think they'll still go up, but they need to pick up wins soon.
Yeah, into non-league, George Glendon scored Chester's 3-1 win at Blythe, and Adam Campbell, regular in here, scored in Gateshead's 4-2 win at Gloucester, which we mentioned for Taylor Charters playing in. And north of the border, Gavin Riley scored again. Greenock Morton's 2-0 win at home to Partick.
It's a good result for them, isn't it? Because Partick are doing really well from what I remember this season,
We go to midweek. Paddy Madden got a couple for Stockport in a 3-0 win over Notts County. Harry McCurdy scored in his return for Swindon, 2-1 win over Sutton. Just mentioned him already, Ryan Bowman scored in Shrewsbury's 5-0 hammering of Morecambe. And Jack Marriott scored in Peterborough's 3-2 home defeat to Swansea. And we've got a couple of little bits of extra news. We don't really mention trialists, but we'll always mention this one because we should have signed him, Keith.
Because you like mentioning him every time you send it, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to include it this time, and I thought, I'll just put it in because you're going to mention it.
Lawrence Shanklin got relegated at Beerschot in Belgium. I read an article that he said no, he's quite happy to stay. He's moved there for a reason, and if it means he has to score goals to get them up, so be it. Joe White signed a new 3-year deal at Newcastle. He's currently on loan at Hartlepool, taken from our academy when he was about 14. And former loanee Harry Arter has joined Notts County on loan from Notts Forest because he just wants to play football.
It's crazy,
he actually joined Forest for about $5 million a couple of years ago, and he's hardly played for them.
It's a really, really strange one, isn't it? And you kind of feel for him because when he played for us, he looked like a player who really loved playing football, didn't he? He was all energy, all action.
Yeah.
And he just clearly that unhappy. He's just like, I just want to go and play football somewhere. So fair play to the lad. Yeah, there you go. Okay, shall we do the answers then for... well, let's just try and work out the answers, I should say, for Mike's question for this week, Dan.
Yeah.
So 12 clubs Glenn Murray played for, right, other than us and Barrow, I'm guessing. Or is that including us and Barrow? I can't even remember. We'll work it out.
It will include us and Barrow, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So, in fact, should we repeat the question just to double check that? Let's hear Mike's question again, just to remind.
So, a player that's played for both teams is Glenn Murray. Can you name the 12 clubs that he represented during his career?
Okay, so it does include both of us then. Okay, so we'll start off with two there. Like Carlisle and Barrow. There's two obvious ones, isn't it?
I was
Workington.
going to say, are we assuming Workington?
Yes, so Workington must be one of them.
I'm going to throw in the classically named Wilmington Hammerheads.
Brilliant, I love that. I don't know how many times I hear
You're not catching us out on that one, Boov, lad. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we know. We've done our research. Okay, so we got them. Halifax. He had a loan spell at Halifax, I seem to remember when he was at... No, in fact, no, wait. I'm mixing it up with Grant Holt here. They're so bloody similar, aren't they? That's the thing you forget with the two of them. Okay, so no, not Halifax, I don't
Obviously
think.
Rochdale, because
Yes.
he went for Muster Rochdale. But he went on loan there, didn't he?
No, first Stockport County was the first one he went to. He had a loan spell at Stockport County from us. Rochdale was the other one we said.
His two main clubs went to Brighton from Rochdale and then made the move up to Palace.
Controversial.
He did go back to Brighton a couple of times, didn't he?
He had a loan spell at Bournemouth, didn't he?
No, he signed for Bournemouth.
Sorry, you sure he signed for
He
Bournemouth?
signed for Bournemouth, I think. And I think he went back to Brighton on loan before signing for Brighton again.
He had a spell at Forest as well, I remember that.
He finished at Forest.
And Reading. Reading rings a bell. I think Reading is definitely a team I vaguely remember him playing for.
I also remember...
Do you know what? We've got 11 clubs as it stands.
I think I've got number 12, and it was a loan move. And I think, didn't play many games for them, it was Watford.
You're bang on. I think you're absolutely bang on that.
I'm sure he played for Watford for maybe 6 or 8 games or something daft. Not many, but it was towards the end of his time at Brighton.
Yep, there you go. So we've got our 12 there. So we're going with Carlisle, Barrow, Workington, Wilmington Hammerheads in America, obviously, Stockport County, Rochdale, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Forest, Reading, Watford. There you go. That's the 12 clubs we've got. Should we have a look? I've got the link up here, Dan. So let me have a look, and I'm going to read through the list for you. So here we go. Right, he started his career at Workington Reds. Had 2 years there. Then he went over to Wilmington Hammerheads in America. Played there for a bit. Went to Barrow. Funny enough, he was on trial with us, wasn't he? And I remember Simmo saying to him, "You're good, but you need to get a bit of games under your belt. Go there, and if you do well, we'll sign you." And he signed non-contract terms at Barrow. Played his 6 games there, scored 6 goals, so we signed him. So he went from Barrow to Carlisle, so that's 4. Then he had his loan spell at Stockport County. Then the loan spell at Rochdale, which became permanent. From Rochdale, he went to Brighton, as you mentioned there. So now we're up to... how many are we up to now? We're up to 7, I think. Palace. At Palace, he had a loan spell at Reading. He then, as you rightly say, Dan, went to AFC Bournemouth. He then went back on loan to Brighton from them and signed permanently for Brighton. And then he had a loan spell from Brighton at Watford. And then, as he said, finished his career at Nottingham Forest. So we got all 12. There you go. Pleased with that. That's a decent return, I think it's fair to say. And that's it, Dan. That's it for this week's show. Looking forward to the game this weekend. Interesting one. It's one of those ones, I don't know if I'm looking forward to it or not. Once I get there, I think I'll know whether I am, because it's one of those ones, I think there's been a lot of talk, it's a local derby and stuff like that, and you know that the local idiots will probably turn out to try and cause bother, won't they? But hopefully, no major issues. There's not a massive walk to the ground. As everyone said, you literally come out of the station, turn right, and you walk down Hawker Street, and you're there, basically, aren't you? Going to try and get in the ground fairly early, because it's limited space and there's not really...
It's horrid away end.
It's genuinely one of the worst you'll see in a long time. Made worse by the view obstructing posts that are now in place because of the roof they've put on it. Not a great place to watch football, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, we'll get ourselves nice and early, and hopefully next week we'll be back on and we'll be celebrating 3 points and another step towards safety. That's the hope, isn't it? That's what we're predicting anyway, so hopefully that's what will happen. Dan, thanks once again for joining me.
No bother.
Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back next week for the next episode on Up the Blues.
Up the Blues.